Hello and welcome back to For Those Made to Do Hospitality. You are tuned into the bonus episode and we are joined today by our guest, Luigi Vespero. For a bit of context, Luigi, we try to make the wildcard question a little unexpected, thought-provoking, and the sky is the limit on how you approach it. And we say this to all our guests. So I'll repeat the question for you.
Please.
NEOM in Saudi Arabia is offering a bold example of self-sufficiency and resource allocation through their mission of shaping the future of food. What innovation lessons is the Middle East teaching the rest of the world in terms of producing food while dealing with water scarcity and extreme weather conditions?
Wow, what a great question. And I'm really happy to answer these questions because a couple of years ago, I learned firsthand how fantastic, this country is doing, UAE, showing that, food, that ingredients can be produced in the desert, right?
Mm-hmm.
So did you know that actually UAE is home to 3,500 farms?
No.
Well, there is 3,500 farms in
Wow.
the UAE. Many of those are independent, so,
Small.
for the family,
Yeah.
But whilst other, they supply, right? So they actually produce to supply. And you will be amazed to see what they're doing and how they're doing everything from vertical to hydroponic. There is farms in the cities. A couple of those are around the corner from here in Al Quoz, while some other are more further inland. I've been to a poultry farm and I couldn't believe what I saw in, how well cared also those animals were. We have milk being produced in the hills of Alain. And let's not forget one of my favorite food to eat, oysters.
Yeah.
With what my good friend of mine, Remy, is doing in Dibba. I think it's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And, that helps not only reducing carbons emissions, but also supports the local chefs to have ingredients that they last for longer. Let me give you an example.
And they're fresher at the same
Yeah.
time, right?
That's what I'm saying. Let me give you an example. Let's talk about oyster. I can import an oyster from France, and from the moment it arrives in my kitchen, I have about 3 to 4 days shelf life to sell it. Otherwise, I have to cook it or discard it completely, right? The one that comes from Dibba, I have 7 to 10 days shelf lives because they just came out of the water. They don't need to travel. They don't need to get on a plane. They don't need to, it's so, and so is for the vegetables. Same thing, right? It's so much better. It's so much better in many aspects. So, and UAE has been, I think, the leading example in this region on how to do it. And I think it's only fair that neighboring country just learn from the best.
Agreed.
Excellent. And Luigi, could you go a little bit into more detail about the mechanics of the water supply for some of these farms, right? Like vertical farming, as far as I understand it, it relies quite heavily on water supply, which in the desert is very difficult to find. How are these farms managing that? Where's the water coming from? How are they finding such a scarce resource?
So interestingly enough, there is not much water being consumed because, if we take the example of hydroponic and vertical farming, right? There is only a small amount of water that runs through a pipe, okay? And it's the same water that gets filtered every time it goes through the cycle. It's filtered and then it goes back, into the machinery, right? So basically, it doesn't actually require the amount of water that we think it needs to grow a vegetable, right? So we are in a such dry country, right? How much water do we actually need to produce a plant of basil? It's actually not much at all because of technology, like we said into the earlier episode, right? Like we spoke into the earlier episode, there's technology there that help us to produce without using too much water and therefore being environmentally friendly at the same time.
There seems like there's a lot of opportunity in this space, I think, isn't there?
100%. I think there is lots of opportunity. I long to the day to see perhaps cattle in the UAE. I don't think we have seen yet to have our own beef. Beef is something that we still have to import, whilst we can have our very own, lamb and poultry and seafood, of course. Beef is something that we're still waiting for, and I long to the day that
You're gonna have a fresh steak.
I can't wait. I might start to grow my own cow as well.
Well, there's always the lab, we could always do that. I'm just curious about your perspective. And again, this is the wildcard question, and we're looking into the future, a future that right now only exists in our imagination and a few sketches. If we're looking at NEOM, which is such an incredible project and so ambitious in so many ways, when we're thinking about the idea of having a city being built in the middle of nowhere that will host, I can't remember how many, 3 million people or something along those lines, which will be completely self-regenerating, self-sustainable, self-dependable when it comes to the climate, food production, food circularity. What are your thoughts on how they're going to achieve that? Equally, do you see any sort of areas of threat for which it may not be as viable as it sounds right now?
I think it's a very ambitious plan, right? I think it is achievable because, again, the UAE shows us that everything is possible, right? That it is possible to produce and be self-sufficient on certain ingredients. I think, if we think the fact that NEOM is only just started, so it has a quite long way to go. And by the time it reaches the target, the technology, it will have advanced more and more and more, right? If we think of the phones, the iPhone is 15 years old, and look what has done, from where it came to where it is now. So imagine how much more there is to do and to discover so I think, yes, it's very ambitious plan. It is an achievable plan. I still think, and this is again, putting back my chef hat, that certain things cannot be replicated. Like talking about a beef, right?
Yeah.
Or not even a beef. Let's talk about something closer to me, to my heart. Let's talk about tomato. There is the tomato from the volcano, from the Vesuvius, from Naples, right? They can only grow, they can only taste that way because they grow onto that soil, right? So unless you move the volcano from Naples to NEOM, you can't have those tomatoes.
You said anything was possible.
You can't have those tomatoes.
We built islands where there was nothing, so you never know.
But you know what I mean? I think, yes, there will be massive milestones achieved, but you can't always have everything. There is certain things that are meant to stay where they are, if you know what I mean.
Absolutely. And this is a personal curiosity of mine in terms of your thoughts on the future of nutrition. Because yes, we can produce lab meat and we can produce vegetables using just water and some minerals, and maybe they don't taste exactly the same, but we still produce them. But do you think that in the future, by augmenting this food production process so much, are we losing some of the original qualities and nutrition of food? Do you have any sort of worries about that, or do you think we will always hack it, we'll always find a way around it?
I'm not particularly worried about it, besides of the lab meat, because plant needs water and soil to grow, right? You can eliminate the soil by adding minerals into the water. So, technically the plants still have the nutrition that it needs. But I'm not particularly keen about having a steak that is grown into a lab. No, I still want, to know that the cow that I'm eating has been roaming around some beautiful green pastures and,
Have you ever tried slab meat?
No, I haven't. So perhaps I'm skeptical.
But during COP28, and we were kind of going around all the kind of startup ventures, and there was a lot of innovation we saw that day. And then we came across this kind of meat substitute that was like a jerky, it was made from proteins. And to try it, once it was cooked and he'd put some flavoring on it, some Asian flavoring, kind of masked.
The smokiness and yeah.
It kind of imitated, but just going back to Bianca's question, you know, do you feel like you can, as a esteemed chef, that you can do something with that? Do you think it's worth?
Look, the answer to that question is, let's take an example of what happened to Beyond Meat, right? There's been the vegan boom, which I respect, and as a chef, I welcome. As a chef and as a restaurateur and an operator, I welcome anyone with any diet into my establishment. But there's been a boom, and we've seen, you know, the Beyond Meat taking, you know, the stocks were skyrocketing, you know, and this is the future. And where is it now? Because you just cannot replace certain flavor. You just can't. And I did test it myself. I tried myself, because at some point you start, I was a chef at the time, and I start to think, maybe that will help me develop some new menu dishes. That stuff tasted horrible. Not only tasted horrible, but you look on the label, the amount of E numbers.
Yeah.
So now I'm teaching a kid to eat tomato because it's fresh and it's nutrition, and, you know, to eat veg and fruit. And yet I'm going to feed something that, the opposite, is got more E numbers than Smarties, for example, you know, or to quotes, you know.
Yeah.
So, nah.
Famous last words.
Yeah,
Nah.
and,
Okay, we'll come back to you in 5 years.
That's a very interesting place, I think, to end the bonus episode. So thank you, Luigi. On
You're
your
most
insights.
welcome. Thank you.
It's been...
The most Italian take.
No. I love
Appreciate it. We appreciate the honesty, and the insights.
And
Thank you.
I'd just like to give you one last opportunity to
Yeah.
just share anything you would like to promote or plug regarding any activities you're doing right now.
Well, I've recently started a new role. So I'm now, since we last met, I'm now the cluster director of food and beverage for 3 beautiful Fairmont property. One being Dubai Sheikh Zayed Road. I also manage Ajman and Fujairah.
Wow.
Up in
Incredible.
Dubai. So,
Congratulations. Yay.
So to all the listeners out there, you know, you can find me across these 3 beautiful hotels.
Come visit you.
Yeah.
Come for a meal.
Come visit. Tell your dad and mom to treat you to a staycation. We can meet on social media. You can find me on LinkedIn. Just search me up as Luigi Vespero. Or on social media, you can search me up as Luigi Vespero, but my nickname is Mr. LV 2.0. And why 2.0? Because I was a chef and now I'm not. So the
new version of
the
you.
new version of me.
Reinvention. Love it.
And that's it. Thank you for having me. I hope you find those stories inspirational enough. And if you have any other question, if you want to know more, please do get in touch. I always find time to get back to you.
Amazing. Thank you,
Fantastic.
Luigi.
Thank you, Luigi. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you.